are gonna go through this project called to do app, and start like diving into the code and see what's going on here. And it's just to really understand get the knowledge of Flexboxes. So now let's get started. So the first thing we are going to do, you can go here if you want, but I can just, you can just watch me do it. So I go workspace and I create a folder and go inside the folder. We have to create two files, index.html, style.css, and I'll just open these two here. So they are inside the Flexbox, right? Okay. So inside, I have index.html and style.css. So I've already done it, but like the beginning code is doc type, head, title, right? A link to two fonts, so they have a link to two fonts, and then link to style.css, and this is clear, right? And I paste it here. And I close the body tag, and I close HTML. So now let's take a look at this, and it has a header. As you see here, it has a header, and there are a lot of boxes. So there's a Monday all the way. So it's like, if I make it big, you can see that. How would you use a Flexbox to create this? So there's like the idea behind Flexboxes are usually parent, which is a container, and the children, right? So you have a parent. So over here, there's one parent, which is row, and there are how many children? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 children. So so there are 4 children here. Also here, there's one row, and there are four children. So that's the idea behind Flexbox. So that's a parent container here, and that's the children inside it. So now, how are we going to really write this into HTML? So we notice that there's a header, and it says your priorities at a glance. Okay, so let's look at the index.html. So the first thing they had is a header. Like I said, this is the top is a header, right? So you could use a class header, or you could use a semantic tag, which comes with HTML5, which is a header like that, right? Now let's so you have a header here. Inside the header you have h1, which is this, and you have h2. So you know, so the meaning of the tagline is basically something. It's like a tagline. It's like a catch line, you know. For example, all the different companies have a tagline, right? Apple, think different. Coca-Cola, open happiness. So basically, tagline is like something like a catch line. So that's why they had H1 is to do or not to do, and tagline is this part. So basically, they're inside the header, and first one H1, and we are basically done with the header. So I'll just go here, and then do H1 and H2, and I'll just copy this and put it here, and I'll copy the second one, and I give it a class called tagline, right? So now if we preview this, then we have apparently, okay, so what's the problem here? So the header, we have H1 priorities. So H2 is closing. Yeah, we closing it, then we have a closing body. So I'll save it, and yeah, now you can see that it tells you we have a header, which is the entire width of the browser. Now we have H1 and H2, right? Now so currently, who's a parent and who's a children?
The parent is header
Yeah.
tag, and the children is NP.
Yeah. So the children are H1 and H2, right? So let's think about the concept of the Flexbox. There's a parent and there's a children, right? So and when the parent has a display of flex, so in order for parent to be a Flexbox, you have to give it a display, right? Display of Flexbox. So in order to do that, what we're gonna do is we go to the developer tools, and we're gonna pick the parent, which is the header. So what do you think happens when I give a display of flex?
It gets. Oh, that's what it does. Really? It goes next to the or not to the.
So what happens is that so H1, H2 is considered a children, right? So imagine if H1 had a div inside it. Is div is also considered a children? No. So in Flexbox, so the ancestor like that. So H1 is a direct children, and when you say display flex on header, this doesn't apply to div that's nested under H1. So that only applies to this and this. Make sense? So Flexbox is only parent to children relationship. So you know that it's the Flexbox has cross axis, and the other one was main axis, which is main axis is a horizontal one, so from left to right, and the cross axis is from top to bottom. So think about it from parent to children relationship. So when you give a parent a display of flex, its children would be next to each other, right? Because the Flexbox is basically, think about it as one row. So you know what row means? Okay, I'll just go to Google
Yes. Linear line.
kind of like in Excel, right? So
It's a line, like row.
row is, oh man, row, straka. So I can show you better.
Yeah.
So this in Excel, this is the entire row. So from left to right, and the columns are here. These are columns. So for example, if we call the if we give a parent a display
From
of,
bottom to top.
yeah, so the column is, this is the columns. So if we give a parent a display of flex, the display of flex, the children, and since the parent is a row, think about the parent as a row, and each children of the parent is basically a column inside a row. So that's why that when you give a display of flex, to the parent, which is the entire row is a parent, right? Because it has all the children. Children 1, 2, 3. So that's why they go next to each other, because the parent is basically a row. Straka. Make sense?
Yeah.
That's why they don't go this way. But you can change direction to column. Change direction of the parent to column to put it this way.
Like
Okay,
display flex column.
so now let's go back. Now what we are going to do right now, so think about it as a row, right? So like you can see the parent, that's a row, that's a entire row, and there's 2 columns, 1 and 2. So now if you give a display, this logic would apply only if you give a display of flex to the header. Now you can see that this moved here, but now let's go back. So this is an entire row, and this 1 column, this 2 column. So isn't it the same like this, like I said right now? The parent is an entire row, and each children is 1 column. So that's very important to understand the parent and children relationship in this way. So as you see, when I give a parent a display of flex, all the children would be next to each other, because the parent is just a row, and in the row you can only put things this way, left to right. In a column you can put the things down, up, top to bottom. Yeah. So that's the axis we are talking about. The main axis is this, the row axis, horizontal, left to right, and the top to bottom axis is a cross axis. I think you learned it in your Code Academy course. Now we have this, right? I just wanted to give a little idea about what the display flex do. So now let's go back, and now we're not going to apply this rule because we don't want that, but so we have to do or not to do. So that's the header part we did, so we are done with the header. Now let's look at the second part. So now we are basically done with this and this HTML, with the to do and your priorities. Now we have to think about all the other ones. So you can see that this is the parent is the entire row, and this children, as you see here. But you can also think of it like the top parent. You can also nest flexboxes, right? So for example, by nesting, what do I mean? So for example, they could have a 1 common parent, all of them. So what if there's probably 1 common parent on the top that wraps all of these, right?
It's body.
So from here all the way to reminder. So there's like some kind of div that wraps. By wrapping, I mean being a parent of all these. So that's why when we go,
Can be body.
yeah, so it could be body, or we could instead of body we could create another div that's so I can show you here. So we can call it an app container. So also one good thing to do when coding, it's important to put comments to make your code more readable. Now we need a container, right? So basically when we put a container here, our container would have all of these inside it until the reminder, right? And after the container, as you can see, there's a footer, right? So now we just put a footer and finish the container after that. So we have a footer, and the footer has some kind of text, which is they use a span tag and put a So I'll just put this here. And now we are inside the container. Okay, now let's look at the children, right? So, like you can see that the children, a reminder is taking the entire row, right? So this could be one of the children's. And all of these are one row, two row, three rows. We could also put all of these Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday inside another container called a week, like with a class week, right? And we have after a week we have also a div class reminders, right? So there's a container. So basically what we are saying, that container has reminder as a children, as an entire week as a children. So everything, right? All the week gonna have all of these inside it, right? So okay, that makes sense. Now let's kind of look here, and so what happens if we give a app container a display of flex? So currently it's not showing anything because we don't have a text. So let's say in a week, right? Instead of putting all of these inside it, what if we just say share and last one? So there's two things. So we are gonna go here, and you can see them. What happens if I give their parent a display of flex?
Well, be on the same line.
They would be on the same line, right? Because the parent is a row, and each of the values would try to get in. So you can see that, right?
Yeah.
So share Alaskon is next to each other. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Alright, now let's write more code. But instead of share, what we have here, we have all of these, right? So each of these is a separate row, as you notice. So separate row basically means the row, as I said, is a straka, and it is a container, and the row has a container. Now this container has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 children, right? Okay, so now let's, for this container, for this row basically, we are gonna create some children. So there's 5 children of the week. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 children, which is 5 rows, right? So there would be 5 divs. So over here, instead of share, I'll put a div, and I create 5 divs with class called row. Make sense?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now if you apply container display flex like here we did, if you apply container flex to the container display flex, it will only apply to parent and children, right? Not the ancestor. Because here in our case it will only apply to the week and to the reminder. If you say display flex, give display flex to container. But if you want display flex to apply to each rows, so if you want them to be in one line like this, then where do we have to give the display flex to the week or to the container?
To the container. container.
Okay, so what I'm trying to say right now is that the Flexbox relationship is only between the parent and children. So the parent of the weekend reminder is a container. So if you want to put weekend reminder next to each other, then we apply display flex to container, right?
Yeah.
But what if we want to apply flex?
Row.
So we won't put all the rows to next to each other. What do?
We apply to week, or we can apply to row, like both.
We cannot apply to row, but we can only apply to its parent, right? So it's only between parent and child. So over here, there's a children and there's a parent. So if we want the children to be next to each other, then we should give a week display of flex. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Currently it doesn't have a text, that's why it's not showing it up there. So Flexbox only applies to parents. So if you give a container the display of flex, it will not put rows next to each other. What does it put? It only gonna put its children, right?
Reminders
and week.
What else?
So the direct children of container is week and reminder. So if we apply a display Flexbox to container, it's gonna put week and reminder next to one another, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So, but if you want to do it on the row, then we do it on the row. Okay, now that's clear now, and now let's now look at the row. Each row has 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Now, so basically that means a row now is a parent, and the parent's gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4 children. So for this we could have 4 divs basically, right? And I'll just copy the divs right here. So basically I'll go back, and so we have a row, and the row has 4 children, which is square boxes like you see here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's kind of like indentation problem, but anyway, so the first one is you see here. Day is a day, right? We just gave it a different class because it kind of looks different, so we want to style it differently than the other ones. So this Monday, and this is a Monday. So inside div there's h3. So if we think about Flexbox, now h3 is a children of the day square, right? So if we give a day square a display of Flexbox flex, then it's gonna align its children horizontally. So it's mostly parent and children relationship. You cannot give a display Flexbox and assume that this would go horizontal, because this is not direct children of the container. Only it applies only to the children. Make sense?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Awesome. So now we have a Monday, and then another div, which is a task. So other divs are basically tasks. So we just give a class and insert some information about your week here. So this is one div, this second div, this is a third div, which is here, and then third. Now ours doesn't have a styling yet, like you can see here, right? There's no styling because empty div doesn't really show anything. But from there, from Code Academy, we can see the end goal. So we have this, and we do the same thing for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday and Friday. So basically that means we're gonna give each row again the children, so other rows basically. So now I'm going to go here and Now I'm gonna give a row all the children to the second to Tuesday, and I'll just change this to Tuesday.
And delete the paragraph.
There was a paragraph, I think.
No, it's on the.
Oh, the other ones don't have. Okay, cool. So I guess I can just copy this. All right, so. Alright, this kind of looks weird, but it's okay. And then the rows have, all of them have certain amount of children, right? Okay, great. Now we just changed this to Wednesday. Is it just Wednesday? Okay, it's just Wednesday. Makes our job easier. And Friday and Thursday. Friday and Thursday. Alright, so now we are done with putting all this together, and that's pretty much. So that's pretty much for. And we also have reminders as let's call it reminders. And since the squares, the task is a class task right here, each of them, and they have a different background. We give the same a class called secondary background to each of the so like over here, each of the rows have a secondary background because they they have a different color. So that's why they just created class, and if you give this class some background and put it in different divs, those divs gonna inherit those CSS styling rules from the class. Makes sense, right? To make it easier, not to repeat yourself 100 times. So I guess what we're gonna do here, we're gonna give one row a different color, and this one we skip this one, and then we give another row a different color, and we skip this one, and then finally we get this row, and then we skip the last one. Alright, now we are basically done, and we have a footer, and our HTML is done. Now that's how it looks like, right? Doesn't look too good, but like, okay, so we have this, and now let's start styling. So okay, so the styling part is also, it's good to comment your code. So app container, and we also gonna have a week, so we can see the parent and children relationship, where they are starting, where they are. And so here well, they all so there's a, so we have a week and stuff like that. Let's go back to style, and now let's look at the styling. So the first thing we are trying to style is go from the top, right, from the body or HTML. So what we are going to do, since the browser applies some default margin and padding, so we can set the margin to 0, set the padding to 0. And what else we could do? We could, yeah, so we could actually give like font family. Font family is the different, how they're gonna the typeface or something. Yeah, so we could give it font family, and also if we want to align everything in the center, so they align all the elements in the center.
Yeah.
So but you can override this, right, by more specific. If you don't want to align this to the center, then you just text align, you can say to the left, and this would override the parent. So the parent would be crossed out, but more specific rules would be applied. So like I said, font family, just general, and background color. So we're gonna give a margin, and we're gonna also give a background color. So background color is not the color of the text, right? It's the color of the background of the HTML or body.
Yeah.
So if I go preview, and we can background color of, they gave
White
it
smoke. White
so they gave it white smoke. Okay. So you can see that everything turned white, right?
Uh-huh.
Now you see that? All right. So it turned white. So we also gonna give it a font family, which is rock salt. So this part is saying, we already linked that rock salt right over here. It's a Google font. So you see that rock salt. We linked that, and then we are using it here, and then we saying if that link doesn't work, use a cursive font family. So the second part is basically, if this doesn't work, then do this. Sometimes they just give a sans serif, or this time they gave a cursive, I guess. So we have a font family. So if we put a font family here, you can see everything changes, right? So to find the font family, you go to font Google, and then you just pick one. So you click on the plus, and then you go here, and then you take this link, right? And then you put it, and they also tell you how to specify it in the CSS. So you just copy this and paste it there. Make sense? There's two things you need. The first one is a link, which you put on your head tag, and the second one is a CSS. So that's what they have. That's why they have this copy, and we already put it there. And this final one is text align center. Align, and then if you text align center, all the direct children would be in the center, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Now we're done with a just general HTML body, and then we just give a secondary background. So the secondary background was over here. We gave one row a secondary background. So you see a different background here. So there's white, this kind of gray, this like snow color. So that's why each row had a secondary background. Not each row, every other row. So like in index, we had one row has secondary, the second one doesn't. So kind of like that. So for secondary background, the background color is snow, right? Now you can see the difference, right?
Yeah.
So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, it's different colors. Great. So the next thing they did was a tagline. So we know the tagline is your priorities at a glance was a tagline, and we also gave a class of tagline to, I think, the footer right here. So if you go index HTML and the footer, here's we gave a class of tagline. So if the CSS rule for tagline will apply to this copyright, and will also apply to this insert some information here. Make sense? Yeah. So 1 second, so we have a secondary background. We did the secondary background, and now tagline. So for tagline, as you can see, the font is kind of different, and the color is also different. The color of the letters, and there's some line height.
Yeah.
So we just copy this and paste it in our, and you can see the changes. It changed. The color, so light gray. This is a color. If I remove it, that's this black. Right now, if I put this here, now the color changes to light slate gray, and then light height, and the line didn't have a height, and I gave 125 pixels line height, kind of like it's like a margin on the text, but it's like if you have a border here, then that's like it gives like a padding between the text and the border. because you remember the box model, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So now that's how it looks like right now. So this is like normal HTML flow, right? Because the divs are usually block level and they're gonna take the entire width of the page. So that's if we give a div of inline, then that would be on the same line. So if you give like header, some display of like inline, and then we give now it's taking the entire width, but if we make the width smaller, and then the other one's gonna pop out, go to the top, like the one we worked on Google homepage last time. So, but it's everything is normal HTML flow. Everything is display block basically. That's why it's not having it. But I don't know why I have your name here. Just think I should go.
Can we reset this rule on the beginning of CSS file? Like, can we say body, like, don't give a full width? For elements of HTML.
So you mean like which stylings? Like you mean the taglines?
Yeah, not taglines, like HTML body, we have some rules that apply to whole page. So what if we say, like, do not apply all the rules, to all the text and everything 100% of width. Like every tag takes 100% of width, right? Like if you go to Monday, it will take 100% of its width. Can we reset all stuff?
You can reset, yeah, but like in HTML you can reset, and that would apply it to everything. But if you want to be more specific, then you have to apply it like on your to more specific classes. So let me find your name, and I don't see your name in the index.
Should be on the top after the header.
Okay, that's kind of weird. Anyway, I can just close this. I think that's the old version. So preview, live preview. See, I don't have your name. Awesome. Alright, now the next thing is so the next styling rule we are going to apply is on the header section, right? So we had a header here on top. So in your style.css, to also make it clear, it's good to put comments, which part of the HTML you are styling. So if we had a header here, then that would be nice to comment in the style also, that's saying that we are styling the header section. So what do we want to do? The header for this header section is basically we have a h1 tags, right, and we have a h2 tag. So we are going to give specific stylings for them. So for h1, since it's taking the entire width, we also can give a background to that. So for example, so let's say h1, and so they are just giving a margin of 0, so it doesn't have any margins. Okay, you see that there's no margin. Now since the h1, you can see the h1 is the entire width, right? Now what I can do is give it a background color, since here you see the background color is different. The background color of h1 is different, so the background
blue.
Okay, background color be sky blue. Awesome. So now you can see the background color of H1 changed, right? Now also they gave a line height and the color. What does the color do?
It changed the color of the text.
Awesome. So it changes the color of the text. Now you can see that here our text changed and to do or not to do. Now the next thing is that we have H2, right? Now our H2 looks, you'll probably use it at a glance, and so it probably has a line height. I think we already okay, we gave a line height on the tagline, so it had the class of tagline, so we did it. We don't have to reapply the line height, so they just give a margin of 10 pixels in the top, bottom, everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So margin of 10 pixels. Awesome. So now we are basically done with the top, and we didn't have to use any kind of Flexbox to do that. So see, it's very it's already responsive.
So when you use Flexbox, it automatically becomes responsive, right?
Yeah, that's a reason we are using Flexbox, because it makes it automatically responsive depending on screen sizes. Now we are basically done with the header section, and we are going to start on a app container. So on an app container, so now look, we are right now gonna give this, the app container had two children, right? Which was the week and
Row.
no, the row is not the children of the app container.
Yeah. It's weak and
The row is a grandchildren of the container.
it's container and weak. Yeah.
It's a container is the parent, and the children of container is week and also reminders.
Oh, yeah.
So it has two children. So now look what happens. So now we go back, and so we just give a dot container some border like they did here. So border will kind of gives a border to the container. So you can see the border, right? The white, and goes all the way. So we have a reminder. So now let's give our reminder some styling. So in here they had let me see the reminder. But like, okay, before we do that, let's keep going and give a. So for a week we don't do anything yet, but like I'll show you once we finish styling some other things, we can go back to the week. And we had a row, right? So we had the entire row here, and it has some height. You see that? So they're saying minimum height should be 200 pixels, right?
Yeah.
So minimum, it could be bigger than that if your screen height is bigger, right?
Yeah.
So row is min height 200 pixels. That works. Now you can go back and see that now this is 200 pixels, and each Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is 200 pixels, right? Awesome. Now the row is done.
Yeah.
Don't think about it yet. And now we thinking about the square. So each of this is a square, right? So imagine, remember in our index HTML, each of the children of the row had a square, and the reason we are doing that, the square class would give a styling of this. It's a round,
Yeah.
round, same thing. So for that reason, we are going to give a square, the width, height, and padding. So the width would be this much, the width would be this much. So the width is 125, height is 125, padding is 10 pixels. So if you just give it to square, now we can you notice some stuff. Awesome. Now you can see that, right? What happened? So you can inspect it and see each square. So every row, every item, every children that has a square, you can see that little box here, right? There's a square class gave it a little box. Here's the second one. Here's the third one. Here's the fourth one. Here's the fifth one. So it's not taking the entire row, it's only taking that little blue spot, blue square spot. Now their parent is a row, right? You can notice.
Yeah.
So okay, in order to make it a little more okay, let me, for the Monday, so let's me put so XY so you can see what's going on there. So you can see XY, right? That's a Monday is the first box. Insert some information here is the second one. X is the third one. Y is the fourth one. So there are since they are in normal HTML flow, they are block level, right? They don't let, it's not inline, so that's why they are not next to each other. But using Flexbox, how do we put them next to each other?
Content, justify content.
No, but first, in order for Flexbox to work, what should we do? What is the first step?
Display flex.
Where?
On the hold on, not row. Can I see the HTML text?
Okay, yeah. So that's it. Index HTML. So that's X.
We need to use weak. Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
now look at this. Insert some information here. X, Y.
Yeah.
They all are siblings, right? And Monday. And who is their parent?
Weak. Weak is a parent.
Okay, why do you think Wick is a parent?
Oh, row? No. Not a weak. Row is a parent.
Okay, so row is a parent, right?
Weak is not a parent.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So same thing over here is row is, we have one row and we basically have four children. We have one row and we have 4 children. You can see the text because we didn't put any text. You can inspect it and then see the row here. The row is the entire thing. It's a parent, and that's a children. That's a child. That's a child. That's a child. All right. Now, how do we put the children next to one another using the Flexbox?
Display flex
Where?
on row tag.
Okay, so I just went to this, inspect, and I'll put a display flex. Now you can see that, right? They all went to next to one another. You see that? They are horizontal. Alright, now you can see that everything is on the same way. So here, apparently, it's not the same over here, but in order for that, since we use developer tools to apply it, only this worked, but we can also apply it here by just, since they all have the same row, so they have the same parent. So each of them is a row, the class of row. We go to style, and we are going to say the row would have a display of flex. So all the children goes horizontally. Flex, right? Now you can see that everything, all the children are here. So you can inspect it and inspect the div. The reason it's not showing is that the divs don't have text, so you can see that. Okay, great. Now the next thing is square for this one. This one is I think we already applied this styling. So square. Okay, no, we didn't. Now you can see that this applies some styling to here. Great. And the .date.square is basically the way we are going is that we are .day, which is here, and it has a child called square. No, I think it's this one, .date. So Monday H3 gets, and all of these gonna get Tuesday. So .day.square Tuesday. So that's why they have a color of blue. So the next thing we are going to do, give a yellow color to this. So the way we are, so we know that's task square, right? So we can call that task.square and give it a color like that. So now we can see that all of them have this styling. Great. So the next thing would be for the paragraph. There's a paragraph, and that's task P would give us the paragraph which is inside the task. So there's a task and then P, this paragraph. So we are going to go style.css and copy that task paragraph, and it's giving it the font family of Quicksand, and this is also linked in the head from Google Fonts, and font weight, which is 700, and then font size, which is 12 pixels. So just copy this and paste it here, and you can see that right here. Awesome. Now it looks good. Now next thing is to go to reminders. So we are basically done with the app container styling, and we are gonna go to style the reminders, and for reminders, you can see that they just gave a background of color of khaki, which is kind of yellow. Now you can see that we also have the reason it's not showing is because we don't have any text on our background, on our reminders. Let's go and check, and over here we just have to give a text called, so the text is probably H something, so H3, so you can see that. Now just have to give H3 here, and you can see that it shows up over here. Great. Now we can we are done with styling reminders, and H1, we did H1, week square, everything, and reminders. And so for reminders, for the header, they give width of 100%, so it's going to go 100%, and gives a margin 10 pixels, kind of looks like that, and the color black, it'll be black, and the line height 90 pixels, and font size 24 pixels. So they're more specific. First they just gave a reminder, the background color, and made more specific stylings for reminders H3 tag. So I'm just gonna paste it over here. So width 100%, margin, color is a text color basically, and we are, as you can see, our reminder looks good. It's bigger now because it has some line height. And then now we're just gonna font size of footer, which is gonna give a font size to this, to the footer, and we are basically done with the styling it. But now let's focus more on a Flexbox concept. Now let's look at different things. What happens when we are changing the screen. Now you see that when I'm making this screen small, this should go to the next level, because now it's kind of really small, and I want them to go down. And so we know the children of the we had, let me go back to here. The children of container was a week and a reminder, right? So you can see the children of the entire thing is a container, from reminder all the way to top to the border here. Now the children of the container was a week, which covers which starts from here all the way to here, and the reminder. So there's two children. So what happens right now if I apply display flex to the container? So we know that in Flexbox, it only applies to children and parent. It doesn't care about this. It will only apply to week and the reminder. So what happens in this case? So they would be in a horizontally in a horizontal, right? So the week would be next to reminders. So probably what I'm thinking is the reminders will not be here, but instead would be on next to the week, right? Because the week is entire div and it has all the children. So it doesn't affect this small ones, because the Flexbox only cares about parent and children, and the children of container is week and the reminder. So the reminder would be in the horizontally here on the side of the week. So let's see if this hypothesis is true, if my theory is true. So I'm gonna go pick the container. So this is not the container, but I can go down here and see the container. So you see the container is the entire thing. So from here all the way to here, and its children is week, like here. You see the week starts from here all the way to here, and then the children is week, and then the it's not a child, but this, and the children, the second child is a reminder. Okay, now let's pick the container and give a styling and display of flex. And like we said, now the reminder should be on the right? So let's give flex. Oops. So here we go. As you can see, the reminder went straight to the next to the week. It's because there are children, and that would be in the horizontal. So now let's go back to here, and I think they give you some tasks to do. So we're just gonna follow those tasks. So guess none of them have any display. Okay, great. Now let me shrink this. Okay, great. Now, so the first thing they say is set the display property of the following elements. So the display value of elements of class container to flex. So when we set it to flex, as I said, as you see here, the reminder went next to it because it's horizontal, and it only applies to children. So the children here is the children here would be the week and the reminder. So they are next to each other. But before that, they were not next to each other. The reminder was here. So now, next thing to do would be set display value of elements with class of square to flex. So now we know that we have each of them are a square, right? Value elements a class of square to flex. So now we, in our HTML, we have square. So each separate piece are, all of these are square. So do they have a children? But currently they do not. So when we go back, I don't think there will be any change here. So if I put a display of flex to a square, you don't see any changes because it will change. So basically this is a square. Now if you say display of flex, then the children of this would be this one. So for example, it doesn't, so if you give a display square display of flex to the square, nothing happened. Why? Because the square is just a box, and the box has paragraph in it, and the paragraph is the only children. So if it had some other child, then they would go next to one another. So let's say I edit this and I add another paragraph called share. Now in this case, the share should go next to insert some information because their parent has a display of flex. You see that? So that would be in a horizontal positioning. Okay, great. Just to clarify things, if you give a display to square, a flex square, then that would change its elements inside it, its parent, its children. So the parent here is a square itself, and the children is first paragraph and the second paragraph. And if you don't give it square flex, then that would be that would be inline. Yes. Alright, so now let's go back. And we did this part, and then display value of was a class of weak to inline flex. So the inline flex, though there's two ways you can start the Flexbox. Is one setting display to flex, and this another one is setting to display to inline flex. So when you say inline flex, it's kind of like inline block. So there, it takes the features of inline and then flex. So that would be inline flex helps them to two flex boxes would be next to each other. So for example, so if the display of the week is inline flex, so let's go back here. Install.css, put it square display flex, and reminders. And now our reminders, so we have a week here. Where's a week? So if we give it a display flex, inline flex, currently, so why the thing is, so all the squares are display flex, and we also have weak that so now as you see here, that's the effect of inline flex. So the parent has an inline flex, so all the rows inside them, all the children would be next to each other because their parent is an inline flex. Make sense? Yeah. Alright, but if we change it to just flex, alright. Oh, okay, wait. So I think the effect is from square, I'm assuming. Oh, it's not changing for some reason. So the problem is that I forgot to give a container. I forgot to give a container display. I tried it on a developer tools, but I forgot to bring it over to here, to the style, to real styling. So give a display of flex to container. So what happens is it puts a reminder next to a week. So you see a reminder is gone. So reminder is all the way here. But the problem is why we are having this. The reasons could be, let's play with it and we figure it out. So let's say we remove the inline flex, and row has a display of flex, right? So each row has a display of flex. Okay, makes sense. So when we okay, that's what I thought it is. So basically, when you give a week of inline flex, right? So currently the week is weak flex. No. So let's say if we give a display of flex to week, what it's gonna do, it's gonna take all of its children. What's the children of week? So we can see the children of week is row. So each row is a children of week. So why they are currently they're not Flexbox, because their parent is not display flex. So if you say display flex, what happens is that each row would be next to each other. So this row would be next to this. So Monday to here, and Tuesday would be from would be in this line. So they would be on the same line, right? So that's what we've been doing the entire time. So for example, if you want to turn all of these into flex boxes, then you go to the parent, which is week, and the children is a row. And so if you give a display of flex to that, and they would be on the same line. You can see that, right? All of them would be on the same line because that's horizontal, right? The week is row, and all of these would be positioned horizontally. So that's why we are going to give a display of inline flex, and as a result you can see they are next to each other, but we don't want that, right? It's so now it's in mobile format. You can see that you're not gonna scroll all the way down there. So that's a problem we have to fix. That's one problem. But now let's go back. So we did this in reminders. We're also gonna give our reminder at flex. So we are going to give our reminder so here, and display of inline flex. This would only it would only apply to its children. So the children of reminder, as we see here, would be just a h3 tag. Okay, great. Now that's what we have. So we are done with the first step. Now it's something related to the flex grow. Okay, so what happens here is that the flex grow is how much the children grow, right? So if there is extra space on the parent, so if there are only 2 in this row, then there would be extra space, right? So what happens in that case? So by default they would not grow, the little boxes will not grow to the space. Instead they would just stay in here. But what you could do, you can say apply flex grow to each of these different items and then make them grow if there's extra space. So that's what's happening here. They're saying that we should apply flex grow of 3 to the week and 2 to the reminders. So basically, if the container has some extra space, then the week and the reminder would automatically grow. But in order to see that, we first have to put all this in a same line, so they don't have to be in this position, but they have to go down. So how do we do that? One way to do it would be a flex direction, but so the how flex direction works is that we can give a direction to parent. So currently the parent, all the children of the parent are horizontally next to each other, but if we give a flex direction of column, all of the children of the week would be on a different line. So there would be one line here, the first children would be in this line, second children would be in the second line, so because it's a column. So the row means the stрока, and the column, as I said, would be like this. So if these children were like, so by default it's children are horizontal, but if I applied the flex direction column to the parent, this children would be as a column. So this would be here, this would be here, this would be here. So the same thing here. So currently they are, by default, they are horizontal next to each other, but if I apply flex direction of column, they would be column wise. So that would be down here, that would be down here. Okay, so let's do that and see. So we first have to find a parent. Parent was a week. Let's just use this and go up a little bit and look for a week. Yeah, right here. And I'll just give a flex direction of column. So it would only apply to its now you can see that right away. You can see that it will only apply to its children. So it didn't apply to reminder because reminder is sibling of the week. So it only applied to its children. So what was before that? Since the week was display flex, each of its children were next to each other. But now the flex direction, we changed the direction to column. So they were on a now they're on the same column. Like I said, I showed you here that before they were next to each other, 1, 2, 3. But then after I changed the flex direction of the parent, then one step went down here, 1500 went down here. You see that here, it went down here. Okay, great. Now, so there's a lot of extra space. So what are we going to do with this extra space? So currently, nothing happening, right? Nothing. So in order for it to grow, we have to specify flex grow. So we have, if we specify flex grow to reminder and the week, this would grow based on the extra space left on the parent. So the parent container, which is a container, has some extra space left. Now we want our flex boxes to kind of grow based on that if there is a free space. So that's why what we are going to do next would be to complete the second part. So we did this one first just to make everything clear, and now flex grow, if we give a flex grow value of 3 to week, so and 2 to reminders, now the week parent, the week will take more space compared to the reminders, but only by 1. It will take more space by 1. So they would split this space between each other when we are resizing the window if there is extra space left. So now let's do that, and I'm gonna go to reminders and give it a flex grow of 2. So if I give flex grow of 2, now I'm gonna give it another its sibling, a flex grow of the week, right? The week would get a also display. I have to just oh man, I'm putting it in the wrong place. So this, where's the week? Display inline flex, and we also applied flex direction, which was a column to put its children column wise. Also flex grow of 3 here, it take more space, and the reminders would get a flex grow of 2. Now let's see the change. Now you can see that now reminders growing. You see that? You see that it's growing. Now we also see that our week is growing. You see the week is taking more space than the reminder. So there was some extra space. Now see the week is also growing and the reminder also growing. So it's a screen size is small. You can see that the reminder shrinks a bit and it grows, and the week is also growing here. But the problem is, you can see that, so the problem is the children of the week is not going to the next line. So in order to do that, one way to do that would be how do you make them go to the next line? In order to do that, you use something called flex wrap, that and you put flex wrap on the parent, and when the screen size is small enough, so I'll click the parent of the children is our row, right? So if we do it on the week, it doesn't work, so we have to pick the row. So for here, if I give a flex wrap of wrap, that means if I shrink it, alright, let me see. So if we shrink this, okay, it's not working for some reason. let me see what's the problem is. Okay, so basically we have to use flex wrap, and we'll use it right now in a second. So we did the flex grow. Now you know that flex grow. What does flex grow do? If there is an extra space on the parent, it's gonna shrink. So reminder shrink, and this shrink, the weak shrink. No, it didn't shrink. It grew. It grew. So it was small, and they split the extra space between each other. They split the extra space of the parent. If there's extra space, that would be like that. If there's no, this wouldn't work. So that's why the weak is taking more space here. This is the weak is the entire container here. Okay. Now, so they're saying use the flex wrap property to wrap elements with class row. So that's this thing we were talking about, because when you are going like this, they are not going to the next line. To do that, you have to apply a flex wrap of wrap, because it allows you, if you resize a browser and it becomes very small like that, if it's like that, then it would help the children go down. That's why we are gonna get since this is the children of the row, we are gonna go pick the row here, and the row is a display flex already, and we have to say flex wrap wrap, and let's see the changes. Like you can see here, didn't work over there, but it's working now. Like you can see that once reminders hit the sibling, boom, it goes down. That's responsive. Boom. However, you can see there's some space in here. But how do we fix that? So you can see there's some space, but however, like all the children are so close to each other, and in a Flexbox we can specify. We can say the children could be have space between each other, or it could be on the right side, or it could be in the left side. So the property we use to do that is flex. I think it was something like flex and justify content. Yeah, it should be justify content. So justify content would only do the horizontal ones. So these are horizontal, right? So if you want to bring the entire children top to bottom, you wouldn't use justify content. But if you want to give some space to children horizontally, or center them horizontally, then you use a justify content on the parent. So we have a parent here, row, and if you say justify content, and justify content would only apply to the children. So let's say we want to center the children. So there is some extra space, right? So we would like to center the children. So we go back to here and we say center. And you can go back, you can see that all the children move to the center. What if we want to give so this is a horizontal. Just think about it that way. If there is extra space, now it's move the children to the center. Now what if we want some space between them? So the justify content takes different values. The first one is flex start. Flex start puts all the children from left to right, but no space. You can see here. And if I do flex end, that would be from right to left. You can see that. And if I also say space around, it would give a space around it. You can see that here. There would be space in the middle and also space around it. But we can also, if you don't want space in around, we can specify a space just between. Awesome. So that's how it's going to look like right now. You can see that once it's going down here, it's going to be on the next level. It's going to be on the next level. You see that? Great. Now instead we just going to give a space around, so it has enough space everywhere. Boom. Beautiful. Boom. Alright. Now everything looks great for now. It's very responsive on the big screen. It'll be like this. on a small screen, it will go down. Great. So see what they are telling us. Alright, so they say put a justify content on a row with a space around. That's what we did. And the square and justify content is, so our square had a display of flex 2. So the square are individual boxes. So what if we want to center the children in the square? So we would apply justify content to the square if we want to center the children. So this is a child and this is a square, the entire square. And so that's as a result, we are going to say display flex, and we are going to give it justify content. So this would only apply to the children of the square. So just to see, it went to the center. But as I said, this is not, if the children, you want to move them top to bottom, that's cross axis. So in order to do that, you use something called align items. For horizontal centering and putting space between them, you use justify content. For vertical, so for moving children vertically, you have to use align items. So for example, if I say square align items, flex end, that would put it on the bottom. You can see that, right? If I say flex start, it would put it on the top. So for cross axis, you use align items on a parent. So let's say this is a parent, right? The row. It has all these children, and if you want to move them in a cross axis, so let's say we want to move all of them stick to the bottom, what do you do? So in order to do that, you use the align items, because this is for giving space horizontally, we use justify content for centering. That's horizontal. But what if you want to move it to here, or move it to the top, or move it to the center? So if you want to move it to the center, so that's top to bottom, right? So that's why we use align items on a row, on a parent. Hope it makes sense. So now, okay, so now our text is in the center because we moved top to bottom. Give it square, the parent of this. Now we have to move it. We also have to move these boxes to the center. So that's why, since it's top to bottom cross axis, we are gonna align items on a row, which is a parent. Now you can see they move to the center. If you so their align items takes also 5 different values. Flex start, put him on the top. You can see that, and flex bottom, flex end, we put him down here, and then center. And I think there's 2 more. I think like space, flex reverse. I don't know. You can look it up. Anyway, so for horizontal centering and giving space between elements between the children, you use justify content, and for vertical, you use align items on a parent. Okay, so I hope it makes sense. So set justify content. So that's what it's saying. Justify content of the row to space around, and the content of square to center. So when we justify content of square to center, what it did was basically it moved it horizontally. So it centered it horizontally, but it didn't center it vertically. But in order to do that, we used align items to do that. Okay, cool. Now that's what it's saying. Align items, property of the row to center, and align squares. Okay, we did that already. What it did was vertically, horizontally, like I showed you. I think that's pretty much it. And now we can see how Flexbox made it so easy for us to make this website very responsive. Boom. You see this on the phone, your iPhone or something. It's awesome. Looks great. It was very easy to make this layout, and this is automatically responsive. Awesome. What if it's smaller? yeah, that would be like this. The smallest would be like this. Have reminders. That's how you can see it. You see it on the phone. All right, looks awesome. Let's look how it's gonna look like. We can see that from Galaxy S5. All right, wait a minute. I think it's not resizing. Oh, we have to put a viewport or something like a tag. Anyway, so that's pretty cool. So that's why Flexbox makes it easy for us to lay out for responsive design. And there's another one called grids. So that's also very important, and we're gonna learn about it later. But the knowledge of Flexbox is very important because we are going to build a React Native application, and the React Native uses a Flexbox for mobile app screen, the layout of the app. So that's why it's very important to know all that, how everything works. And so just to final words, Flexbox, you have to set up, it's mostly between parent and children. So here there were a lot of nested elements, right? There were a lot of parents here. The parent was row and all of its children. Now the parent here is a square and the children is p. So all of them are the relationship between parent and the children. So it's very important to know. And if you want to make them Flexbox, you have to apply display flex to the parent. And once you do that, all the children would be horizontal. And if you want to change their horizontal direction to column, you should specify flex direction, and also flex wrap, flex grow, flex shrink, and all that different. If you don't know some of the properties, go back to the tutorial and play with them. And once you play with them, and you will really grasp the idea. And that's very easy until you get some hands-on experience. It will be very easy. So that's pretty much, and see you on the next video.